Welcome to the BroPak Blueprint. I'm your host, Benjamin Figueroa Medina, founder of BroPak. Before I bring guests into this space, I wanted the first episode to just be me. No interviews, no panels, no outside voices, just a foundation. Because if the podcast is called the BroPak Blueprint, then it needs to start with the story behind the blueprint. And that story is a little personal. BroPak was never just about business. Yes, BroPak focuses on communication and resource development, strategy, and helping people build more structure in their business. But at the core, BroPak has always been about something deeper: purpose, narrative, scale. Those are not just words, that is the foundation of what we do. Purpose is why we build. Narrative is how we tell that story. And scale is how we grow the impact. But before I could help other people shape their narrative, I had to understand my own. Before I could help others build with purpose, I had to find mine. And before I could help others scale their impact, I had to believe that my own voice, my story, and my own journey had value. So that's why this podcast is personal. The BroPak Blueprint was created to go back to the roots, back to the purpose, back to the community, back to stories, systems, lessons, and the people that shaped who we are before the world ever sees what we build. Because too often, people only see the final result. They see the business, they see the title, they see the post, they see the events, they see the brand, but they don't always see the discipline behind it. See, they don't see business owners and the sacrifices. They don't see the late nights. They don't see the hard lessons learned. They don't see the moments of doubts and negative thoughts that business owners do or go through. They do not see the people who poured into you, the mentors, the teachers. They don't see the pain that pushed you or the battles that you had to fight quietly before they become visible. That is what this podcast is about. It's about the blueprint behind the person. The truth is, I'm still building too. I'm still learning and I'm still growing. I'm still figuring out what it means to lead with purpose while carrying responsibilities, cultural, family, community, health, and vision. And I wanted this podcast to reflect that. Not perfection, process. Not performance, purpose. Not just success stories, real stories. And my real story starts where I came from. See, I was born in Puerto Rico, and my first language was Spanish. Coming to the United States, language became one of the first challenges I had to face. I was not a native English speaker, and because of that, things became hard in ways people did not always understand. There are moments and still are moments where I felt like my voice was being corrected before it was ever truly heard. Even now, there's still moments where I was told directly and indirectly not to speak, to stay quiet, to stay silent, to silence myself, to not touch or move into different spaces or create spaces. And when you're told that enough, something happens. There comes a time when I did not want to speak. I did not want to be in front of people. I did not want to be in the public eye. I did not like my voice. I did not like my accent. I didn't want to be seen because I had learned that question whether my voice belongs here or not. Even with people around me helping me see the bigger picture, it was still hard. See, I was grateful enough to have mentors. I've had amazing teachers and I've also had beautiful opportunities. I've had people believe in me and push me. But even that, many of those spaces still did not fully reflect me. They did not fully reflect my culture. They did not fully reflect my language. They did not fully reflect the world I came from and was created in. And because I was not a native English speaker, there were times when people focused more on what they thought I lacked than what I could actually create. They focused on what needed correction, what needed polishing, what needed fixing, but they did not always see what I could build. They did not always see what I could construct. They did not always see the perspective that I carried. Too often, I felt like people saw me as a project that needed fixing instead of a person who needed to be embraced and understood. They saw the accent, they saw the language barrier, they saw what they thought was missing, but they did not always see that I came from a different world. I came from a different culture, a different community, a different way of seeing life. See, I came from a diverse perspective, lived experience, resilience, and a story that had value. But for some people, that was not enough. It was not to put together in the way. It was not to put together in the way that they liked. It sounded like they wanted me to become something they're used to, something they see in their everyday life. It did not look like they expected me, or sorry, they did not see the way the impact looked. It did not fit the version of leadership, communication, or success that they were comfortable with. And for a long time, that made me question myself. It made me question my voice. It made me question whether I could lead, whether I could speak, whether I could build something people would take seriously. But that was one part of the story that made me who I am, that helped me create my purpose or find my purpose. Another part of the story was my health. See, for the past 7 years, I have been on a health journey that changed the way that I see life, work, discipline, and purpose. And I do not say that lightly. When you're dealing with health issues for 7 years, it affects more than your body. It affects your mind. It affects your confidence. It affects your energy. It affects your plans. It affects how you show up. It affects how you lead. It affects how you dream. And even it affects how you love. There were days where I was building while also trying to understand what was happening inside me. There were days where I was showing up for work, for people, for responsibilities, and still carrying pain, fear, discomfort, or uncertainty in silence. There were days where I had to push through things people couldn't see: doctor's visits, health scares, flare ups, questions, waiting, trying to find answers, trying to stay focused when my body and mind were both tired, exhausted. And that journey did something to me. One, it humbled me, it slowed me down, it forced me to listen to myself, it forced me to understand that success means nothing if you're not well enough to live in it. It forced me to understand that purpose can not only be about producing, working, and pushing. Purpose also has to include healing. It has to include discipline, It has to include taking care of yourself. It has to include being honest about what you're carrying. For years, I carried a lot privately. In many ways, the health journey helped me start my fire. It's a beautiful spark that I found. Because when you face moments where your body is not doing what you want it to do, when you're waiting for answers, when you're afraid, when you're tired, when you're trying to keep going while still not feeling like yourself, you start asking deeper questions. What am I doing with my life? What am I building? Who am I becoming? What matters? What am I leaving behind? Am I using my voice? Am I honoring my story? Or am I building something that's actually going to mean something? That 7-year health journey made me look at life differently. It made me more serious about purpose. It made me more intentional about time. It made me more focused on impact. It made me understand that I cannot wait until everything is perfect to start building. Because life does not always give you perfect conditions. Sometimes you have to build while healing. Sometimes you have to lead while learning. Sometimes you have to speak while finding your voice. Sometimes you have to create while carrying things people do not always know about. And that's a part of my blueprint too. Not just a business, not just a brand, not just work. See, the health journey, the language journey, my cultural journey, the moments of silence, the moments of doubt, the moments where I had to choose whether I'm going to shrink or build. Those are the moments that you start reflecting on. And those are the moments that could push you to do better or destroy you. And for those 7 years, I've lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of clients. I've lost a lot of I lost the love of my life. And that's okay. Because now I understand something very clearly. My background was never the weakness. It was the foundation. My language was never the problem. It was part of my power. My culture was never something to overcome. It was something to build from. My health journey was not just a setback. It became part of my fire. See, my story was never something to hide. It was part of the blueprint because that's what people were pushing me to do, hide myself. And that's no more. That's one of the reasons that the blueprint, BroPak Blueprint exists. Because I know what it feels like to have a voice and still feel silenced. I know how it feels like to be in a room where people see your potential but still try to reshape you into something familiar to them. I know what it feels like to carry culture, language, family, health, and community into spaces that do not always know how to value a full person. And I also know what it means to fully decide I'm not here to be fixed or molded into the average human being. I'm here to build. I'm here to speak, and I'm here to create spaces for people that lost their voice or are trying to find their voices. I'm here to turn what I carried into something that could help somebody else feel seen. See, this podcast is personal because my voice did not always feel like it belonged in public. I remember I had a teacher in high school. He see me from literally middle school till I graduated. And till this day, I want to give him a shout out, Mr. Bruce Wilson. To this day, he literally told me these words. I'm not fully like remember it. That he basically said, look at you. You went from a kid in in class silent to a kid speaking in public. And seeing that reflection, because I wasn't thinking about that. And to this day, we stay connected. And now I'm using it because I know there are people who understand this. There are people now trying to find their purpose. And now I'm using it with purpose. People who had to fight to be heard. People who had to build through pain. People who had to lead while healing. People who had to carry culture into spaces that did not always understand it. I remember I had a mentor named April Anderson. First time I met her, she was like, stay positive. You're going to do big things. And for years, I didn't understand what she meant. But she seen something in me that I didn't understand. And I'm grateful for her because she kept pushing it on me. And that to me became part of my purpose because it went back to I was someone that was carrying so much on my shoulder because of everything that I've experienced. So I started to heal. And now I'm one of those people telling people to stay focused. That chain reaction. I'm learning that people who had to carry culture into spaces that didn't always understand it, or that room would look at them weird and question is, why are you in here? That's why I do what I do. People who were told indirectly and directly that their voices needed to be smaller to be accepted. People who were treated like something needed to be fixed when they really just needed to be understood. This podcast is for them too. See, as a Latino, as a founder, as someone who believes deeply in community and storytelling, I know that our voices matter. Our voices matter. Our stories matter. Our experiences matter. Our health matters. Our cultural matters. Our communities matter. And that people building in our communities deserve platforms that honor the full weight of their stories, of their journeys, of their impact. Not just the polished version, not just the professional bio, not just the health like how not just the health not the health not just the highlight reels that they post, the full journey, the roots, the lessons, the pressure, the sacrifice, the healing, and the people. See, The moments that shaped them before the world saw what they build, that's what I'm talking about leadership. It means talking about entrepreneurship. It means talking about culture. It means talking about justice. It means talking about creativity. It means talking about mentorship. It means talking about wellness, discipline, legacy. And it means asking the deeper question: where did your story begin? Who shaped you? What did you have to overcome? What did you have to survive? What did you have to unlearn? And what did you have to build that's helping you build now? And who are you building it for? See, a lot of this comes with responsibilities. A lot of this comes with what you do and what you try to leave behind, that legacy you're trying to build. Those are the conversations I want to have here because I believe every person has a blueprint. Some blueprints are built from family. Some blueprints are built from struggle, cultural, faith, failure, survival, healing, community. Some are built from the people who believed in us, or anything before we were able to believe in ourselves. And sometimes the blueprint is built from all of it. That's why I didn't want this podcast to only be about business. Yes, business is part of it. Strategy is part of it, but growth is a highlight. Because if we only talk about the outcomes, we miss the foundation. And the foundation is where the real stories live. See, growth does not happen by accident. Impact does not happen by accident. Legacy does not happen by accident or overnight. It takes structure. It takes strategy. It takes discipline. It takes community. It takes healing. It takes humility. It takes people willing to tell the truth about the process. And it takes the courage to keep showing up even when the path is not clear. That is something I'm still learning. There are still days that I'm still asking questions. There are still days where I'm wondering if I'm doing enough or if I'm good enough. There are still days where the responsibility feels heavy, but I keep coming back to the same thing: purpose, narrative, and scale. I ask myself, why am I building? What story am I telling? How can this impact grow beyond me? This is the mission. This is more of the purpose. That's the work. And that's the heart of the BroPak Blueprint. This pilot episode is my way of saying welcome. Welcome to the foundation. Welcome to the process. Welcome to the conversation that will challenge us to think deeper about who we are, what we're building, and why it matters. See, at first I thought this podcast was for entrepreneurs, but in reality, it's for creative mindsets, organizers, community leaders, professionals, dreamers, builders, the people who know they're called to do more than just exist. It is for the people building with intention. It is for people carrying a story, the people trying to turn purpose into impact, the people who are still figuring it out but refuse to stop moving, the people who had to fight to find their voice, the people who had to build while healing, the people who know that leadership is not just being seen, it's about serving with purpose. And people who understand that we do not follow cultural, we shape it. That line is not just something to say, it's responsibility. It means we're not waiting for permission. We're not waiting to be validated. We're not waiting for someone else to define our value in our story. See, we're building. We are building. We are speaking. We are creating and we are leading. Us together, we are shaping what comes next. See, the podcast begins. I want every conversation to carry that energy. I want every guest to bring their truth. I want each story to remind someone listening that they are not alone. I want this platform to be space where purpose is clear, narrative is honored, and impact is built with intention. This is not about perfection. This is the blueprint. The story behind the story. The foundation behind the work. The person behind the title. The purpose behind the platform. This is the BroPak Blueprint, and this is only the beginning.
Looking up. Growing up, I was always looking up. Grew up with a weak foundation, wasn't the only one this generation. All the bridges that I walked fell apart halfway. I never felt safe. So I had to walk back while the bridge collapsed. Sometimes I got trapped, so I created my own step. A step into a new direction, a step into a new destination. Growing up, I was always looking up at the stars. When I saw stars, that's all they were. When I saw light, that's all it was. Because I had to grow up fast. I had to think like a man at 5. I had to step back. Step back wasn't a new direction. It was dreaming backwards as the world went forward. Looking up at my dreams but no foundation to support them, so they always got destroyed by the negativity that surrounded me. So I had to look up, and I kept looking, and looking, till I finally looked up. I started seeing inspiration, I started feeling motivation. While I was seeing beyond the stars, I kept looking up, till I looked down. All of a sudden, I grew a frown. Seeing the next generation that had motivation or inspiration made me like communication. Because they're growing up in this crazy foundation where they're glued to this thing called technology. We're the only people they connect with all over this world web. Storing up emotions inside them, becoming antisocial in a world with billions of human beings. But I'm not gonna lie now, I was growing up as one of those kids. A weak foundation, a weak satisfaction. Weak, that's all I remember being. Being weak, being left aside. But noticing I wasn't the only one, it hurts to know that no one cares. That all the memories you make are pointless if you can't share them with someone. But then I looked up. I found a leader, found a big brother, found a big sister. Started finding new friends that started giving me motivation, that started being my inspiration. That knowing that I had a safe bridge to walk on. Then I was able to have a walk on, which led to another, and another, and another. Until I reached the end of the bridge and started creating my own. And knowing that I had help, yes, help for the first time in my life, I knew that I could start dreaming. So I looked up at the stars, and I kept looking until I reached the stars and found my new beginning.
Step by step.